welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be reading through my fall TBR, and I haven't done a formal, like, here's the list of all the books that I want to read this fall kind of video. So I was going to add that at the beginning of this video really quickly. I was going to read through some of the books on my TBR. I'm not going to be able to get through all of them in this one video. I'm not even sure if I'm going to be able to get through all of these this fall, but I wanted to go ahead and just share with you guys what I had on this list, and in this video just kind of read through and review some of the books. So I'm going to go ahead and hop into it really quickly. So the first book on my list is Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. If you have not heard of this, I am shocked because this book exploded last year, and I started out by reading the Caraval series because I know that those worlds are intertwined and I just really wanted to start from the beginning. I read the first book of Caraval, I really enjoyed it. I read the second book of Caraval. To me, it just seemed like a remake of the first book, and I was honestly unimpressed by it. I kept telling myself that I would read the third book before I started the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, but I just have not been able to get through it, and it's been almost a year. And I've been putting off this series, and I've been so excited to read this series based off of what everybody has said about it, the raving reviews. Like, this book seriously exploded. So I'm finally biting the bullet, and I'm just gonna go ahead and get started on this series. I don't think I'm ever gonna finish the Caraval series. I'm already like 2 or 3 chapters into this book, and I'm already really enjoying it. So that's really promising for me. I don't know. I'm gonna give this one a shot. I have really high hopes for it. If you haven't heard of this book, I'll give you like a brief read of the synopsis. So it says, for as long as she can remember, Evangeline Fox has believed in happily ever after until she learns that the love of her life is about to marry another and her dreams are shattered. Desperate to stop the wedding and heal her wounded heart, Evangeline strikes a deal with the charismatic but wicked Prince of Hearts. In exchange for his help, he asks for 3 kisses to be given at the time and place of his choosing. But after Evangeline's first promised kiss, she learns that bargaining with an immortal is a dangerous game, and that the Prince of Hearts wants far more from her than she pledged. He has plans for Evangeline, plans that will either end in the greatest happily ever after or the most exquisite tragedies. Then the next book is Love of My Afterlife by Kirsty Greenwood. I'm really excited about this as well. This is kind of like a paranormal romancy type book from what I can gather from what people have said. This has also been getting really good reviews within like the book community. It's really started to kind of take off. So I'm very interested in it. It seems really lighthearted. It seems like a short read just to kind of be a little bit of a filler book from some of the other more emotional books that I have on my list. But for this book, this is about a woman who ends up dying, and in her afterlife, she ends up meeting her soulmate. She's given a second chance at life, and she ends up returning to Earth, and she tries to find her soulmate. So this just seems really cute. I'm really excited about it. I've heard good things. I then have A Man Called Ove by Frederick Bachman, and I imagine we have all heard of Frederick Bachman. I want to say this is also a TV show or like a movie, or it's going to be adapted into one. But I've heard really good reviews about this. I've heard it's also really emotional. This is going to be my first Frederick Bachman book, so I'm excited, but I'm also like, oh my gosh, what am I getting myself into? So it says, all you need is Ove. Am I saying that right? Is it Ove or Ove? Because for a long time I heard Ove, and then everybody started saying Ove, so I'm gonna go with Ove. At first sight, Ove is almost certainly the grumpiest man you will ever meet. A curmudgeon? I can't say that word. With staunch principles, strict routines, and a short fuse. People think him bitter, and he thinks himself surrounded by idiots. Ove's well-ordered solitary world gets a shake-up one November morning when the appearance of new neighbors, a chatty young couple and their 2 boisterous daughters, who announce their arrival by accidentally flattening Ove's mailbox with their U-Haul. What follows is a heartwarming tale of unkempt cats, unlikely friendships, and a community's unexpected reassessment of the one person they thought they had all figured out. I'm really excited about this book. I know Fredrik Backman does touch on a lot of kind of sensitive subjects, and he writes very emotional books, and I'm just kind of in that mood for the fall, so I'm really excited about this. I've heard good things. I then also have another Fredrik Backman book on my list, Anxious People. I'm not gonna lie, I was first interested about it because of the title, and then I saw a lot of other people put this on their fall TBR, and just what they were explaining about it just seemed really intriguing to me. I've also heard just really good things about it because it's Fredrik Backman. There's always good things about Fredrik Backman. It's a charming novel about a crime that never took place, a would-be bank robber who disappears into thin air, and 8 extremely anxious strangers who find they have more in common than they ever imagined. So from some of the reviews that I've heard of this, it seems like we're following each individual character within this like heist? Kidnapping? I don't think it's a heist. I think that's the wrong word. Oh, it's hostage. That's why I said heist. It's a hostage situation. But it seems like we follow people within the hostage situation, their life story, the bank robber's life story. It kind of is a story about how they all have different lives and different realities, and they come together in this situation and discover almost that they're not different in a way. That they all have hardships and things to get through, and I don't know, I'm just really interested about it. Like, I think it will follow really interesting character development, and I really like character development within stories. If I don't feel connected to characters, or if I don't feel like there's good character growth, I generally don't like the book. Shortly after that is that if it has a weak plot line, I'm also disinterested. But a big thing that drives reading for me is being connected to characters and them having very full personalities and really thought out development. So I'm looking forward to that. The next emotional book I have on the list is Firefly Lane by Kristen Hanna. I read The Nightingale by her just like a month ago. Oh my God, that was amazing and so emotional, and it has me hooked on her writing. I know this is a TV show, obviously, because it like says on the book, but my mom has watched the TV show a million times and she loved it. So I wanted to pick up the book because I tried I tried watching the TV show and just didn't get into it as much. So I want to try reading it. In the turbulent summer of 1974, Kate Malarkey has accepted her place at the bottom of the 8th grade social food chain. Then to her amazement, the coolest girl in the world moves in across the street and wants to be her friend. Tully Hart seems to have it all: beauty, brains, ambition. On the surface, they are as opposite as two people can be. Kate doomed to be forever uncool with a loving family who mortifies her at every turn. Tully steeped in glamour and mystery, but with a secret that is destroying her. They make a pact to be best friends forever. By summer's end, they become Tully and Kate, inseparable. For 30 years, Tully and Kate are there for each other, weathering the storms of friendship, jealousy, anger, hurt, resentment. They think they've survived it all until an unexpected betrayal tears them apart and puts their courage and friendships to the ultimate test. And I've heard really good things about this, and I've heard a lot of people say that they finished reading it and it just really made them rethink some of their female friendships and just the importance of female friendships in general, your connection to people, your understanding of people. I'm really excited about this. I hope I can get to this soon. And then last on the list, if you guys have been following along with some of my videos, you guys know that I'm in the middle of the Windy City series. And Caught Up is the next book on the list. I think I read on my Kindle about like 100 pages of this because these are also on Kindle Unlimited. So if you have a Kindle Unlimited subscription, you can get these for free. I read part of it, realized I wasn't in the mood for it, and read some other books instead. But I really want to get to it soon. I'll read you the synopsis of this one. Kai, I'm a single dad and starting pitcher for Chicago's MLB team. I'm stretched too thin, but I don't want help raising my son. Each of his previous nannies only lasted a few weeks before I let them go. Now my coach is putting his foot down by hiring the one person I can't fire, his daughter. Miller Montgomery is the last woman I should fall for. Too wild, too young, and too attached. Chicago is just a quick stop for her. I thought I'd be counting down the days until she left, but summer feels too short when I start thinking about forever. And then Miller, as a high-end pastry chef who recently won the most prestigious award in my industry, I'm desperate to prove I deserve it. But with a new title comes new pressures, and I can't create a fresh and inspiring dessert to save my life. With only 2 months to get back on track, I should be focusing in the kitchen, but instead I let my dad talk me into using my time off to nanny for his star player's kid. Kai Rhodes forgot how to have fun, and I'm eager to jog his memory. But when he and his son start to feel like home, I have to remind us both that my time in Chicago ends with the summer. Besides, I've always been a runner, and the last thing I want is to get caught. So her second book in this series, The Right Move, was one of my probable top 5 books, 5 romance books maybe, this whole year. I loved it. The trope was amazing. I don't think I've ever read a romance book about a single dad and that whole trope and the nanny trope. So I'm gonna see how I feel about this. I'm excited to try a different romance trope than what I normally do, because I feel like all I really read is fake dating, enemies to lovers, forced proximity type books. So we're gonna see about this. I just wanted to quickly share that with you guys. I'm gonna start reading a little bit more of Once Upon a Broken Heart later tonight, but I will keep you guys updated on these books. I plan on just kind of mood reading throughout the fall. These are just the books that I know I want to get to, if I get to them at all. Other books might be added on throughout the fall as we go along, because I know there's 2 releases this month that I do want to read, so I don't know if those would be added as well, but I just wanted to hop on here really quick and share that with you guys, and I will see you guys in my next clip. I'm a little bit more unimpressed with the plot line than I thought I would be, but I'm kind of unimpressed, and I was so excited about it because of the 2nd and 3rd chapter, but it's just mid to me. But I'm pretty sure this is young adult fantasy, and I think I had hopes for more adult fantasy. I'm halfway through, and I've hit a turning point in the book that is fairly entertaining. It brings a little bit more to the plot line than what we were getting, but there's just pieces of the plot that just feel a bit young, maybe. I have nothing against YA. I really do enjoy YA. I honestly just might be growing out of it at this point. I don't know. Maybe it's just this author. I don't know. I think Evangeline's fine as a character. I'm not connecting with any of them really at all. I don't find them necessarily that entertaining. I just don't have a connection. Jax is fine. He feels very similar to how he was introduced in the 2nd book of Caraval, but I don't know. Apollo. He is annoying. He is so annoying. Every time he comes on, I just physically cringe. I'm 50% of the way through. I feel fairly unimpressed. I'll keep you guys updated. I probably won't update you guys again until I finish the book. If I finish the book, I plan on it, but it's a little hard right now. I didn't like this book. And I don't mean to offend anybody in anything that I'm going to point out. I see why people enjoy this, but for me personally, it was not my book. And I went in fully confident that it would be. Like, I bought the UK cover from Blackwell's. I thought I would love this, and I didn't. I think Stephanie Garber is just not for me. I read the first Carol book. I read the second Carol book. I've now read this. She's just not my author, and that's completely fine. And she can be somebody else's author and not be mine. But I'm gonna give this book a 1 star because I DNF'd it, but I read well over half of the book. So I definitely know I can make an opinion about it because I read a lot of it before I was like, I can't do this. I am just gonna dive straight into it. I've written some notes for myself to formulate my thought. I'm gonna start with Evangeline. I didn't like her all that much. I felt like she was written so naive, it became a negative to the plot. Like, there are female main characters who are naive and innocent and gentle and kind and feminine, and they are just as strong as the sword-wielding, opinionated, stubborn, very just like strong, powerful female main characters. There is room and space for both. And I find representation in both characters. I enjoy both character styles. I think it's necessary in all fantasies to have that level of depth. I just don't think Evangeline was written very well. On top of Evangeline not being written well, I felt like the plot just wasn't written very well. I don't feel like there was ever really a direction that the plot was going into. I felt like we had a bunch of subplots that all just kind of mixed together in a big jumble, and it got knotted up, and then it just stopped making sense after a while. I wasn't sure if Evangeline and Jax were really supposed to have chemistry. By the time I had finished it, the chemistry started to gear up, but it just kind of wasn't there, and then it suddenly was there. Like, there was no build-up, yet it wasn't necessarily like a fast-paced romance. It just like, it was there and then it wasn't. So the subplot with the stepsister, the suspense spoiled it for us. And the gossip column in it as well, I felt like it did add a little bit of something to the story, especially since it seems to be set in kind of like a Regency themed era, but it added nothing. Like, it almost spoiled the suspense every single time something was written in it. And then I don't know if this is much of a spoiler because it does happen within like the first 50 pages. There was like this thing, like the week of something, I can't remember it. The week of terror, I think is what it was called. It was literally that Evangeline turned to stone and then got like fixed. And then the week of like terror was mentioned for like a sentence, and that was it. Like, it added absolutely nothing to the plot. Oh, I will say that with the whole start of the book, when she wanted to be married to her stepsister's fiance and she was upset about that and everything that happened in that plot up until she like sacrificed herself was so good. And that's when I had initially made like my first comment about the book being like, oh my gosh, I'm really excited about this one, was in those like first 50 to 100 pages. And I was like, this is gonna be a good story. There's good build up. And no joke, it went downhill from there. Like, I'm really sorry, guys. I really don't mean to offend people. If you really liked everything that I've said about this story, like, if you have the opposite opinion as to me, more power to you. Like, You are more than valid to have those opinions as much as I'm valid to have my opinions. But this was just not the book for me. And I just wanted to give people a heads up and be an honest reviewer and just let you guys know that, like, yes, this is one of those like cult classic book talk crazed books, and you know, if the public thinks it's great, like, obviously there's something about this book that is good. I just missed what was good about it. And that is completely fine and completely reasonable. We're all subject to have our own opinions. But that is how I feel about it. So I'm going to stop this review now because I feel like I'm just rambling on a tangent. I do still think I'm in the mood for fantasy, but I don't think I'm in the mood for like a heavy romance fantasy. So I've started an Ember in the Ashes. Right now, though, like, I was watching some reviews and people were just like, this book is sad. Like, the things that happen to the main characters, like, they just can't catch a break. How many pages in am I? I'm 7% of the way in. I'm on page 24. And I'm just like, man, these main characters are going through it. But I'm really interested in this book. I know it's really taken off in the book community. It's been around for a while, but from what I can understand, there were redesigned covers done recently. I think they're really pretty. They also give me ACOTAR vibes, which I love. I love the ACOTAR covers. Like, I love them. I'm gonna see how it goes. I will read a little bit more tonight and then update you guys on my thoughts. I really don't want to power through a book I know I'm not gonna like this one. I was really trying to power through, and I was just like, I'm gonna get myself in a reading slump if I continue. So if this seems to be going downhill for me, I'm just gonna stop reading it and I'm gonna DNF it. So we're gonna see. Oh, I also know this book was not initially in my TBR list that I had at the beginning of this video. I'm just really in the mood for something like this, so I really just wanted to pick it up and read it because I'm just like a mood reader. That's how I motivate myself to read. I don't want to read something I don't want to read. I don't think anybody does, but we're gonna see how this goes. Also, side note, look at how cute my fall Kindle stickers are. I'm obsessed. Okay, I'll see you guys in my next clip. So I'm here for a really quick reading update. I'm currently reading Ember in the Ashes, and on my Kindle I got to like page 100 before I was like, I give up, I'm confused. I forgot how hard it is for me to read fantasy on my Kindle, and I think it's because I am not able to very quickly like go back, like flip a page and like remember what a specific term was or specific motivation or whatever. So I ended up going to Target and I bought the book. And the book isn't very expensive. I just wanted to avoid doing this. But I'm starting to tab it now. Can you even see the tabs? I don't even think you can. I just have them like barely sticking out on the side. But they're all green because for me, green means plot. So it's terminology, it's motivations, it's just various things that I know I need to remember. I'm currently on page 44, 45. Chapter, oh, I'm well into the chapter. Oh God, I don't know how to read Roman numerals. This one. Don't judge me, I never learned. I want to say that's 5, 4 or 5, 6, because isn't VI 6? I think so. I am enjoying it. I like the first 100 pages. I feel like I just wasn't grasping the world building very quickly. That might be because for the past maybe like 3-4 months, I literally have not picked up like an actual fantasy book. It's been more romantasy where the plot isn't as important, I guess. Like it's still prevalent, but it's just not the main thing. And this one is very much like plot heavy, but I am enjoying it. I like the characters. I find their motivations really entertaining. I find their storylines really entertaining, and I'm excited to see where it goes. So I'm gonna keep you guys updated. For me right now, the writing is just a little bit dense, mostly because of the terminology and some of the names. I just like, it takes me a second to like comprehend it, but it might take me a little while to get through, but I'm enjoying it so far. So that's my reading update for right now. That's burning like really bright. My dad surprised me with this puzzle, and I'm so excited, and I wanted to make it tonight. I'm not gonna complete all of it. This is my first 1,000-piece puzzle that I've done. John and I, a few weeks ago, I wanna say now, ended up making a 500-piece puzzle together, and that took us a while. So this is gonna take me some time, and I might need his help, but I'm so excited. It was the best surprise ever getting the text from him. He was like, hey, I bought this stuff that you'd been like putting in the Amazon cart and taking out. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. I'm gonna work on this puzzle while I also listen to the audiobook of An Ember in the Ashes. I have now made it to 192 pages. I can't tell you what chapter I'm on because it's in Roman numerals, and to be quite honest, I can't read Roman numerals. So I am on page 192. I'm not halfway through the book yet, but I'm almost getting there. Literally after page 100, this picks up like no one's business. Like, I had to force myself to go to bed last night and stop reading because I am eating this up. I haven't listened to the audiobook yet, so I don't know if I'll like it in audiobook format. Sometimes that can be hit or miss for me. So we're gonna see, but I'm gonna work on my puzzle and listen to the audiobook and have literally the best night of my life. Let's get started. I don't know if I like this lighting. We ended up getting curtains for our sliding doors instead of having those like vertical blinds. And this is just causing like an angelic glow behind me right now with the time of day it is, but I'm just gonna roll with it for right now. I'm hopping on here because I'm reviewing An Ember in the Ashes. I finished reading it this morning, and let me just tell you, I went ahead and bought the second book. It's literally like right there. I'm gonna give this 4 stars. So like I had said previously, I was having difficulty getting into the fantasy aspect of this book, and to some extent it was a little bit of the downfall with reading it. I felt like there needed to be almost like a glossary at the beginning or the end of the book with some of the terminology in this. It's just terminology that I have not been familiar with, and I honestly also kind of couldn't find it online. I think this book is gaining traction, but I'm not sure if there's enough traction to have some explanations of the world and just the terminology online. So I struggled with that with the first 100 pages, just getting used to it. Also with fantasy, and this is my own thing because I know it's the appeal of fantasy, fantasy names suck sometimes. Like, I just kind of hate them sometimes, and they're just difficult to pronounce. And sometimes when I can't pronounce it in my head, I forget the name and I forget the significance of the character, and then I'm like, wait, which one are you? I don't remember. And I felt like I got some of that in this book. I just think a glossary of pronouncing names, pronouncing places, I think it just would have added a little bit more to the background of the world building, because like there are maps and like it's labeled with the places. So like that was nice to have. I really think it needed a glossary, and I think it would have made the first 100 pages way easier. But literally after the first 100 pages, this book picks up so much. I wouldn't say the first 100 pages were boring. Within the first, I think it was like 25 pages, something insane already happened. Like, the pacing of this book is so good. It just kept me so wrapped up in it. And even while I was like driving and when I was at work, I was thinking about this book and how I wanted to read it when I got home. But I really enjoyed the characters. I'm not sure they had a significant amount of character development within the first book. There was enough to keep it entertaining and for me to like the characters, but this is also a 4-book series, so I imagine there's going to be a substantial amount of character growth throughout. I really liked both the male main character and the female main character. I think you pronounce it Elias and Laya. I really like the both of them. Towards the end, some of Elias's woe me stuff was a little bit annoying, but I think that's just my own personal criticism. It didn't really take away anything from the book. But I did really like both of them. I felt like they were both very motivated characters. Their motivations made sense. We have 2 opposing plot lines like running parallel with each other with this. So it's not necessarily like both main characters are intertwined throughout the story. We do have moments where they do come together and they have interactions, and those are very interesting. But I think both plot lines are very strong, and I think that even though they don't necessarily intertwine, they flow parallel enough with each other to where it makes it entertaining. And there were so many chapters too where something would happen to one of them and then I'd have to wait a whole chapter before I could find out like what it was. I really also liked some of the more minor characters, like Helene, I think that's her name, like how you pronounce it. I found her really entertaining, and I found her and Elias's relationship very entertaining. Oh, it was good. And I didn't necessarily guess some of the plot twists. Like some of them I was like, okay, it could be this, but I wasn't very strong on my prediction of it. But even the plot twists were like, they were really good, and I'm very interested in where this story is going. I wouldn't necessarily say this is one of my top fantasies of the year right now. I'm really banking on the second book being a little bit better than the first, because I think this first one was just a lot of build up to what is to come. It's kind of like how Sarah J. Maas, you really have to get through her first books and then it just is awesome. I'm kind of thinking that this is going to happen with this series, because there was such a significant amount of background, like it's not background right now, but what will be background for future motivations of the plot and the characters. The only other criticism that I have of it is the romance. It was just a little bit random, and I'm definitely a slow burn romance kind of gal. Like, I want there to be a build up. And I wouldn't necessarily say this was a build up. It just kind of, like, the intrigue has happened, but there's not been a lot of reasoning as to why the intrigue is there. And it's definitely a subplot. The romance is a subplot. So if you're very much a romantic-y kind of person, like I want to say similar to kind of what Powerless is, what Heartless Hunter is, I wouldn't say you would like this. If you do like fantasy and you want more of a plot to it than just romance, I definitely recommend this one. Just because romance is a subplot, it does drive some of the motivation of the characters, but as of right now, it's just kind of starting to build. The only other criticism I have of it as well is the descriptions. I love Sarah J. Maas level descriptions where it's borderline unnecessary what we are being told. I found that within this book there wasn't a substantial amount of description for me to really imagine the world, and I'm somebody when I'm reading, like I see a movie in front of me instead of like words on a page. And when I feel that way about a book where I just don't feel like I'm reading, I love it 10 times more. I didn't necessarily get this that much with this book just because I felt like there was a lack of description, which did disappoint me, and I'm hoping that it'll come out a little bit more in the future books. But really those are my only complaints. Other than that, like, it was amazing. I'm so excited to read the second book. I don't know if I'll get to it in this video. It might come in a different one because I just have one more book that I want to read in this video, but this is definitely a 4 stars. I'm really happy with this read, and I 100% recommend that you guys read this. This was so good. I finished this book in 2 days, which I normally don't finish books that fast, but I was just completely like engrossed in this. So the story follows Delphi, who ends up dying, and in her afterlife she meets her afterlife therapist. And she ends up striking a deal with her afterlife therapist that she wants to return to Earth and meet her soulmate, because in the afterlife, she thinks that she's ran into her soulmate. And Delphi is a very introverted, she's completely like excluded herself from society, she doesn't have friends, she's never had a relationship with a man before. Like her only friend is her neighbor, Mr. Yoon, who she eats like breakfast with in the mornings and is pretty much like a part-time caretaker for him. She doesn't have friends at work, etc. And this just follows the story of her being sent back to Earth for 10 days, trying to find this soulmate, and going through life in a very different way than how she initially had. And I find a lot of similarities in myself to Delphi. At times I really did think she wasn't a very nice person, which I didn't fully relate to. There were some things that she said to people that I was just like, that is just mean. But a lot of her trauma growing up and a lot of her experiences and how they shaped her as an adult, I related to her thought processes and why she was so reserved and why she was so protective of herself and her peace. And it was really beautiful seeing this character just kind of grow out of those insecurities and take back life. Because in her perspective, she was like, you know, I'm only going to be alive for 10 more days. Like, who cares what happens? The found family within this and just her overall character growth was just really beautiful to read about. And it was just very entertaining. It was very much written like a rom-com. The side characters were so likable and enjoyable, and the relationship with Delphi was just so fun to read. And the romance that comes within this book is also really entertaining and very heartwarming. we're learning about all these people who Delphi has encountered through day-to-day life on the regular that she has just never bothered talking to and opening up to because she's so reserved in trying to protect herself. And just these people's backgrounds and just how they kind of say to Delphi, like, you know, I've always been here, you just never have bothered. Like, I don't know, it gave a really nice change of perspective to the world and the importance of people and the importance of friendship, the importance of being vulnerable and open to people, and just going through life, experiencing it in a very imperfect way. I just felt like the message of this book was absolutely perfect. I'm giving it a 4 stars. I didn't already say that, but it is a 4-star read for me. I really, really, really enjoyed it. This is definitely one of the top romances I've read this year. I found it really interesting and unique. The magical realism of it was also really entertaining. I felt like this was a great book to read, so close to Halloween with the magical realism. But also, any time of the year, this book is really perfect. If you are a lover of Ashley Poston's Dead Romantics, I definitely recommend reading this as well. I think it would be up your alley. It gave very similar vibes to the romance, and I would say the romance was a little bit more prevalent in this one than Ashley Poston's book. But just the romance and the found family and just the overall, like, not kind of pulling yourself away from the world and opening up to people was just perfect. And I think, I don't know, it was good. It was so good. So I'm actually also going to end the video off here. I really appreciate you guys watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. I have more videos to come that are similar to this. I love reading books and I love sharing them with you guys. So I will see you guys in my next video.